Jeff Dawson here, Amazon best-selling author of Gateway Pioche, Destination DC, Target Berlin, Love's True Second Chance. Today's episode, we're not going to talk sports, we're not going to talk politics, and that's one reason that I did not do an episode last week, is I got too embroiled in political posts on Facebook and different issues that, when it all came down to it, didn't amount to a hill of beans. But these things do happen. Well, during these debates, I was posting some excerpts from my book, Gateway Pioche, Destination DC, and Target Berlin, and they dealt with the press and how they could convolute a story, turn a story, how government officials can get the right narrative they want if they have the right people in place. And one of the people following the posts actually bought all three books, which of course, hey, that's a plus. That was very exciting, and I couldn't have been more happier. Most of us that are authors can relate to that. And that's what this episode is going to deal with, is authors and characters. She posted that she had started Gateway, and then I followed up, I guess a week later, as a normal author would. Well, do you have any thoughts, any criticisms, any comments? And she surprised me with she had read all three books. And I was like, damn. I was smoking. And I want to thank you, Gloria. And I asked her a question. It was simple, just two, because I didn't want the post to turn into another ad and author promotion and look at me, which sometimes we do need to do that as authors. And I asked her what was her favorite character, and did she enjoy the way the third book ended, and did it tie everything together? And she said yes. Her favorite character, at the time she couldn't remember, was the female heroine of the story, whose great-grandfather was Martin Bormann, and she wanted to go back in time and kill him because she could not live her life knowing who her ancestors were, that they had supported the Third Reich. And Gloria was a little confused. She couldn't remember the names, so I wrote them down for her, who the main characters were. And while I did that, a thought came to mind. How do we develop our characters, and where do we come up with their names? Well, that really got me thinking. When I wrote the Gateway book, I really didn't know what direction I was going. I did know there was going to be four historical events in the story. Thus, I needed four characters. And I came up with Abdul Farad, Mookie Wynn, Larry Kowalski, and Judith Anderson, each unique in their own way. But of the three, one had a very special place in my heart. I'll get back to that here in a few minutes. When we develop our characters, it always seems to be a challenge on who to name them. In my Occupation series, where it's vampires pitted against the Third Reich, that wasn't a real challenge, in that I went to Polish, German dictionaries and Nameless. And then I took some of the books I had read on the topic of vampires and World War II and was able to come up with some very believable names and characters for that time era. When I wrote my book, Love's True Second Chance, there was no debate on who the characters were, for that, my friends, is a true love story. So that means that Debbie Beck Larson and Jeff Dawson were the main characters of the story. No brainer, nonfiction, right? You have to use the real names of the characters. Sometimes you might need family permission to do it. In this case, I didn't. So those were set. In some of the other books that I've written, like my epistolatory of the two Russian brides that were pursuing me in Catfished and what was it, Jeff and Julia's Saga was the first one, and then I had Lovely Nadia in the second one. But all I did was take the corresponding letters and put them in there. So developing those characters was simple. The book Irving Titans, which is a satire on the Cowboys of the 90s. Those characters were easy because even though I'm a Packers fan, I live in Dallas and have since '85. I would watch the Cowboys to lose. Why lie? I'd watch to see if the Cowboys would lose. So I knew all the players. I knew the past owners. I knew the coaches, the head coaches. So let's just say it was a juggling act on changing names, but it was there. So character development wasn't that difficult. Now with the Gateway series, like I said, I had Larry, Abdul, Mookie, and Judith. Larry, based on how the story was going, he needed to be come out as the big, dumb, athletic jock, even though he wasn't. I mean, all these kids went to Stanford. But I needed a character like that who, if things got difficult, you had a very strong character there. You know, think about the show Scooby-Doo, the hero there. I'd use Conan, but I don't think that's a very good analogy. What was that show way back when? I probably should have looked it up before I started this. But just think of your all-American hero, Superman. Everybody looks up to him. Only thing is, Larry was very shy and reserved. And he never dated anybody. So, yeah, he was kind of the Clark Kent. Abdul, obviously of Indian heritage. I needed somebody that was young and irritating, and extremely sharp, and loved Star Trek. So I came up with Abdul, and he fit that bill. Now, Mookie, she was the brilliant Asian chick. Everybody looked up to her, to a degree. She wasn't hard to develop, but when I came to the second female in the story, I really had to think who this girl was going to be. Not only her name, but her mannerisms, her physical attributes, her mental stability. And it didn't come overnight. But then as I searched for a name for this character, the name Judith came to mind. Judith Anderson. The real Judith Anderson was a person that I went to junior high and high school with. We dated in junior high, and it was a good relation, but I was kind of a dumbass. Why lie? Judith was a cheerleader, and I played on, back then, had to have been the C team because, my God, I was horrible at basketball. I was the perfect person to say white man can't jump because I couldn't. I was horrible. I sprained my ankle during a game, and it was Judith and my dad that escorted me or helped me limp out to the car. It was a nasty sprain. My ankle looked like I had a softball in it. Well, Judy and I, we had a lot of fun. I don't know if we dated half the year or whatever it was, but, it's junior high. What are we, 14? Things don't work out. Life moves on. We see each other in high school. She's a brilliant woman. I'm a average C student on a good day. So we were in touch, but we really didn't spend a lot of time together. The next time I saw Judith was at our 20th reunion. She had lost her husband. I believe he passed away from cancer or perhaps a heart attack. She had been very happy. I believe they had an insurance company together, and they had a spot where they called all the single guys, get in a line, and then they had the single girls, said, kind of go through and see if there's anything you want to pick out of this group. And I can still see Judith. She just went bouncing down the line, pointed at everybody. And she just had the prettiest smile, and her shoulder-length blonde hair was bobbing up and down. She had that same happiness and excitement and joy that I remember from the times I had seen her from junior high through high school. And then 2 years before the Gateway Pioche series was ever thought about, I got a post from a friend on Facebook about Judy. And at first it didn't make sense. And I made a comment, and my friend fired back and said, "Pull your head out and read the post again." Perhaps I was in shock. Perhaps I didn't believe it. Perhaps I thought it was a joke. I reread the post. Judy Anderson had been murdered by her husband, who then took his life. That hit me like a ton of bricks. Judy is dead. That can't be. But it was. When Judy and I dated, she actually told me to listen to a song that was a big hit back in '74, and I believe it was Barry Manilow, and the song was Mandy. Excuse me. And she wanted me to listen to that. All right, I'm 14 years old. I didn't understand the message. When I'm working, I go to YouTube, and I found 1974 greatest album hits. And I play that, and that song came up. What better honor could I give Judy than making her one of the main characters in this book. So if you like a story that has time travel and government conspiracies and Las Vegas and the mob and an attempted overthrow of the United States from within, in this case the Fourth Reich, you'll see Judith's name all through this story. That's how I developed her character. I developed Judith Anderson based on the real Judy Anderson that I had known for 35 years. My message is, when it comes to character development, don't be afraid to use someone from your past. You don't always have to rack your brain and try and come up with names nobody else has. We all have a history. We all have a past. We all have something to share. And at times, we also have a tribute that needs to be tended to. And that is how I came up with my character, Judith Anderson. So don't be afraid. Don't beat yourself up. Use what you've got. Remember where you came from and who you came in contact with. Because one day you might be able to pay those people tribute in a book that you write. You can find all of my books on Jeff Dawson at Amazon.com or JeffDawsonAuthor.site. Have a good day.